So let's talk condos. Condos right now are a little bit out of favor in Florida, where I practice. Of course, everybody knows about the horrible collapse in Surfside, Florida. Horrible. It was absolutely horrible. What came out of it, though, is good for sellers and consumers. Let me explain my thoughts. A lot of people feel like right now a condo is a four-letter word. It's not. The legislation that came out of that horrible tragedy resulted in condos of a certain age and height having to do what's called a SIRS analysis, or I might not be saying that correctly, but it's like structural integrity, research study, blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? It means really smart people, way smarter than me, go in that are engineers and trained and assess the structure. And they're looking for what lies beneath that might be problematic to try to be proactive so nothing like the horrible tragedy ever occurs again. It's not a small ticket item. It's so far above the regular due diligence that you or I would be able to commission as an individual buyer of condos. So the result is a really good thing. It means buyers and sellers both know way more about their building than they did before. How can that be a bad thing? I think part of the problem is people are saying, okay, now if we have these issues with our building, we need to fund their remedy. So the outcome of this research, in some cases, is resulting in assessments of various sizes to the homeowners to pay for the testing and fund whatever was discovered and properly fund reserves going forward in the future. That's a very good thing. If I'm living in a condo building that's old enough to have to abide by these regulations, I sure as heck want the peace of mind knowing that my building, I know more about it and there's an action plan to take care of what lies beneath if I'm a seller. Now, that may mean an assessment. So be it. It means you know what the building is and you've got confidence if and when you ever decide to sell, and certainly have confidence when you're living in it. If I'm a buyer, holla, that is great due diligence that you don't have to pay for, and you and your real estate advisor go into that due diligence eyes wide open with way more knowledge than you ever could have commissioned on your own as an individual purchaser. Now, if some of these buildings have assessments, it's like anything else. You negotiate it. Some sellers may have to feel like they have to eat it in order to sell. That may be the case. Talk to your real estate advisor in your market to say, where am I? We need to disclose it, obviously. As a buyer, you get the right to review any of those reports if they've been done. And if a building needs it and hasn't done it, maybe that's a red flag in and of itself. But so many of condominiums have had a difficult time keeping up with maintenance on the structure because it's not inexpensive. And if you kick the can down the curb, so to speak, or whatever that expression is, that catches up with you. And this is a statute to say, no more. We want to fund proper reserves, and we need to understand what lies underneath. Knowledge is power. If you're a seller, you now know more about your building. And if you're a buyer, you know way more about the building. So don't be afraid of condos. And frankly, as a buyer, if more people are saying, I don't know, that's good for you as a buyer. You have less competition. So do not be fearful of condos. Talk to a trusted real estate advisor or call me for advice. I've got a network all over the country. Make sure you ask the right questions. It doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue. It just means you need to ask the right questions, and now you have a lot more intel than you may have had in the past.